She walked away from him. Until he said, "Leave if you want, my car will follow." My name is Isabella Hayes, and I'm 26 years old. I work as a journalist in Los Angeles. This story is about how a billionaire's refusal to let me go changed everything. It started 8 months ago. I was assigned to interview Alexander Chen, tech billionaire, 32 years old, known for being brilliant and ruthless. The interview was at his office, top floor of a skyscraper downtown. His assistant led me to a conference room, told me to wait. I waited for 30 minutes, getting more annoyed by the minute. Finally, Alexander walked in. He was tall, dark hair, expensive suit, the kind of presence that demanded attention. "You're late," I said. "I'm aware," Alexander replied. His voice was cold. No apology, just acknowledgement. "That's rude," I pointed out. "It's reality," Alexander corrected. "I run a billion-dollar company. Sometimes interviews aren't the priority." "Then why agree to the interview?" I asked. "Because my PR team insisted," Alexander said. "But now that you're here, let's get this over with." The interview was tense. Alexander gave short answers, challenged my questions, made it clear he didn't want to be there. "This is going to be a terrible article," I said. "Good," Alexander replied. "I don't need good press. I need honest press." "You want honest?" I asked. "You're arrogant, dismissive, and clearly think you're better than everyone else." Alexander smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Finally," he said, "someone who isn't afraid to say what they think. Most journalists kiss up to me, hoping for access. You're refreshing." "I'm honest," I corrected. "There's a difference." After the interview, I left, angry, frustrated, ready to write a scathing article. I got to my car in the parking garage, started the engine. That's when I noticed another car, a black Mercedes, following me. I drove around the block. The Mercedes followed. I turned randomly. The Mercedes turned too. I pulled over, angry. The Mercedes pulled over behind me. I got out, marched to the driver's window. "Why are you following me?" I demanded. The window rolled down. A man in a suit looked at me. "Mr. Chen's orders," he said. "What orders?" I asked. "To make sure you get home safely," the man explained. "I don't need a babysitter," I argued. "Nevertheless," the man said, "I have my instructions." I drove home. The Mercedes followed the whole way. When I parked, the driver waited until I was inside my building, then drove away. The next morning, I called Alexander's office. "What the hell was that?" I demanded when he answered. "What was what?" Alexander asked. "The car following me," I said. "Oh, that," Alexander replied. "Standard procedure." "For what?" I asked. "For people I'm interested in," Alexander explained. "I'm not interested in you," I argued. "Too bad," Alexander said, "because I'm interested in you." "This is inappropriate," I pointed out. "It's protection," Alexander corrected. "I don't need your protection," I said. "Everyone needs protection," Alexander replied. "They just don't know it yet." I hung up, wrote my article. It was honest, critical, published the next week. Alexander called the day it came out. "Good article," he said. "You didn't pull punches." "I wrote the truth," I replied. "I appreciate that," Alexander said. "Have dinner with me." "No," I said immediately. "Why not?" Alexander asked. "Because you're arrogant," I listed, "controlling, and you had someone follow me home." "All true," Alexander agreed. "But I'm also successful, interesting, and clearly you're attracted to me or you wouldn't be so defensive." "I'm not attracted to you," I lied. "You are," Alexander said. "But that's fine. You can keep denying it. Just have dinner with me, one dinner. Then you can decide if you want to see me again." I said yes. I don't know why. Maybe curiosity. Maybe attraction I didn't want to admit. Maybe just wanting to understand him. Dinner was at an exclusive restaurant, the kind where you need reservations months in advance. "How did you get a table?" I asked. "I own the restaurant," Alexander replied. "Of course you do," I muttered. We talked through dinner, about his company, about my journalism, about our lives. Alexander was different in person, still arrogant, but also surprisingly open. I started poor, Alexander said. Immigrant parents, grew up in a bad neighborhood, built my company from nothing. That's impressive, I admitted. It taught me something important, Alexander continued, that the world doesn't protect the weak. You have to protect yourself. Is that why you're so controlling? I asked. I'm not controlling, Alexander argued. I'm protective. There's a difference. Not really, I countered. Yes, really, Alexander insisted. Controlling is about power. Protection is about care. I care whether you get home safely, whether someone bothers you, whether you're okay. We barely know each other, I pointed out. I know enough, Alexander said. After dinner, Alexander insisted on driving me home. I can drive myself, I argued. I know you can, Alexander said, but I want to make sure you're safe. This is Los Angeles. It's not safe. In his car, a different Mercedes, we drove in silence. At my building, Alexander walked me to my door. This was nice, I admitted. It was, Alexander agreed. Can I see you again? I should say no, I replied. But, Alexander prompted. But I want to say yes, I admitted. Then say yes, Alexander suggested. Yes, I said. Over the next month, we saw each other constantly. Dinners, coffee dates, long conversations about everything. Alexander was intense, focused, but also surprisingly vulnerable when he let his guard down. One night, 3 weeks into dating, something happened. I was leaving work late. A man started following me, asking for money, getting aggressive when I said no. I was scared, fumbling for my phone. Suddenly, a car screeched to a stop. Alexander got out. The man ran. "Are you okay?" Alexander demanded. "How did you know I was here?" I asked. "I have someone watching," Alexander admitted. "You're having me followed?" I said. "For your safety," Alexander explained. "That's not okay," I argued. "Yes, it is," Alexander countered. "This city is dangerous. You work late, walk to your car alone. Someone needs to make sure you're safe." "I'm not a child," I said. "I never said you were," Alexander replied. "But you're mine to protect, whether you like it or not." "I'm not yours," I argued. "Not yet," Alexander corrected. "But you will be." 2 months into dating, Alexander asked me to move in with him. We were at his house, a mansion in the hills. "This is too fast," I said. "Is it?" Alexander asked. "We see each other every day. You're at my house more than yours. Why not make it official?" "Because I need my independence," I explained. "You'll have independence," Alexander promised, "just in a safer place, with better security. Your apartment building is a joke. Anyone could get in." "You're being paranoid," I argued. "I'm being realistic," Alexander corrected. I moved in, partly because he was right about my apartment, partly because I was falling for him, mostly because saying no to Alexander was exhausting. Living with Alexander was an adjustment. He had rules about security, about where I could go, about checking in. "This feels like a cage," I told him one night. "It's protection," Alexander insisted. "I need to know you're safe." "I'm an adult," I pointed out. "I can take care of myself." "I know you can," Alexander said. "But why should you have to? I have resources, security. Why not use them to keep you safe?" "Because I don't want to need them," I admitted. "You don't need them," Alexander replied. "But I need to give them. That's different." 3 months into living together, I tried to leave. We had a fight about his control, about feeling suffocated, about losing myself. "I'm leaving," I announced. "Okay," Alexander said calmly. "What?" I asked, confused by his easy acceptance. "Leave if you want," Alexander repeated. "I'm not stopping you." "Really?" I said. "Really," Alexander confirmed. "But know this, my car will follow." "What?" I asked. "My driver will follow you," Alexander explained. "Make sure you get wherever you're going safely. Make sure you have what you need. You can leave me, but you can't leave my protection." That's insane, I said. That's reality, Alexander corrected. I care about you. That doesn't stop just because you're angry. So leave, go wherever you want, but my car will follow because I need to know you're safe. I didn't leave, not because I couldn't, but because I realized something. Alexander's protection wasn't about control, it was about care. Twisted, maybe, but real. 4 months into living together, Alexander proposed. We were at home, no fancy dinner, no public spectacle. Marry me, he said. Why? I asked. Because I want you protected, Alexander explained. Legally, financially, in every way possible. That's not romantic, I pointed out. I'm not a romantic man, Alexander admitted, but I'm a practical one, and practically speaking, marriage protects you. What if I want romance? I asked. Then I'll try, Alexander said, but I can't promise to be good at it. I can promise to protect you, to give you everything you need, to make sure you're safe for the rest of your life. I said yes, not because of the romance, but because I understood Alexander. Understood that protection was his love language, that care and control were tangled for him, that saying yes meant accepting all of him. We got married 3 months later. Small ceremony, just close friends and family. Alexander's vows were about protection. Isabella, he said, I promise to keep you safe, to make sure nothing harms you, to use everything I have to protect you. You can walk away from me any time, but my care will follow, my protection will remain. That's my vow. In my vows, I talked about understanding, about accepting Alexander's version of love, about choosing him despite everything. 1 year after that first interview, I was married to Alexander Chen, living in his house, protected by his security, part of his life. It wasn't a normal marriage, but it was ours. That's what I tell people when they ask about us. I tried to walk away. He said, leave if you want, my car will follow. That was when I realized he wasn't trying to cage me, he was trying to protect me. And sometimes protection is love. But marriage to Alexander wasn't simple. The first year was an adjustment. Learning to live with someone who thought protection meant knowing everything, who had security tracking my location, who vetted everyone I met. 2 years into our relationship, I had a breakdown about the lack of privacy, about feeling watched constantly. I can't do this anymore, I told Alexander. Do what? He asked. This, I said, gesturing at everything, the security, the tracking, the constant watching. I feel like I can't breathe. You're being dramatic, Alexander said. I'm being honest, I corrected. I need space. Space to be me without someone always watching. You have space, Alexander argued. No, I don't, I said. Your security knows where I am every second, who I'm with, what I'm doing. That's not space, that's surveillance. It's protection, Alexander insisted. It's suffocating, I countered. We went to therapy, a counselor who specialized in high-profile couples. She helped us find compromise. Alexander agreed to less tracking. I agreed to check in regularly. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. 3 years into our marriage, I got pregnant. It wasn't planned. I was terrified. Bringing a child into Alexander's world, into constant security and protection. You're worried, Alexander observed. I am, I admitted. About what? Alexander asked. About raising a child like this, I explained, with bodyguards and tracking. I want our child to have freedom. They'll have everything, Alexander promised, including freedom. Within reason, I added. Within safe parameters, Alexander corrected. Our daughter was born 6 months later. We named her Lily. She was perfect, and immediately became the most protected person on Earth. This is too much, I told Alexander when Lily was 2 weeks old. What is? He asked. The security, I said. She has 3 bodyguards. She's a baby. She's my daughter, Alexander replied. She gets the best protection. She needs to breathe, I argued. She needs to be safe, Alexander countered. We compromised. 2 bodyguards instead of 3. Discreet surveillance instead of obvious. It still felt like too much, but it was better than the alternative. 4 years into our marriage, Lily started showing signs of Alexander's personality. Willful, determined, needing control. "She's just like you," I told Alexander. "Is that bad?" he asked. "It's terrifying," I admitted, "because if she's like you, she'll struggle with control issues her whole life. Or she'll be strong," Alexander suggested, "able to protect herself and others." "There's a middle ground," I said, "between being strong and being controlling." "Is there?" Alexander asked, "because I don't know where that line is." 5 years after that first interview, I went back to journalism, started writing again, investigative pieces, articles that mattered. Alexander was supportive, but also protective. "You need security on assignments," he insisted. "I'm a journalist," I argued. "I can't have bodyguards following me. People won't talk to me." "Discreet security," Alexander compromised. "They'll stay back, but they'll be there." "Why?" I asked. "Because you're investigating dangerous people," Alexander explained, "doing dangerous work. I need to know you're protected." We argued, but eventually I agreed, because Alexander's fear wasn't irrational. The people I investigated were dangerous. 6 years into our marriage, someone threatened me. An article I wrote about corruption. Someone with power and connections. They sent a message saying I should stop digging, saying there would be consequences. Alexander's response was immediate. He hired more security, had the person investigated, made it clear that threatening me was a mistake. "You can't just threaten people back," I said. "I didn't threaten them," Alexander replied. "I made them understand reality." "What reality?" I asked. "That hurting you means dealing with me," Alexander explained, "and dealing with me is not something anyone wants." 7 years after that first interview, we had another child, a son. We named him James. Alexander was thrilled and terrified. "What if something happens to him?" Alexander asked constantly. "Nothing will happen," I promised. "How do you know?" Alexander pressed. "Because you'll protect him," I said, "like you protect all of us." "Sometimes I wonder if it's enough," Alexander admitted, "if I can really keep everyone safe." "You can't control everything," I pointed out. "I know," Alexander said. "That's what scares me." 8 years into our marriage, Lily started school. Alexander wanted private security, armed guards, the whole setup. "That's insane," I said. "It's necessary," Alexander argued. "She's 5 years old," I pointed out, "going to kindergarten. She doesn't need armed guards." "She's my daughter," Alexander said. "She gets protection." We compromised. 1 discreet bodyguard, no visible weapons, following at a distance. It still felt excessive, but I was learning to pick my battles. 9 years after that first interview, I won a journalism award for an investigative series. Alexander was proud, but also nervous. "This puts a target on you," he said. "I know," I admitted. "Which means we need better security," Alexander insisted. "I need to live my life," I countered. "You need to be safe," Alexander replied. "Those things aren't mutually exclusive, aren't they?" I asked. "Because sometimes it feels like being with you means choosing safety over everything else." "It means choosing to live," Alexander corrected, "so you can have everything else." 10 years after that first interview, we renewed our vows, with our kids watching. In my vows, I talked about 10 years, about learning to balance independence and protection, about understanding that Alexander's control came from fear, not malice. In his vows, Alexander repeated what he said that first time I tried to leave. "You can walk away from me," he said, "anytime, for any reason, but know this, my car will follow, my protection will remain, my care won't stop. That's not because I want to control you, it's because I can't stop caring, can't stop needing to know you're safe." After 10 years, I understood that about myself. and I hope you understand it too. 11 years into our marriage, Alexander's mother passed away. He grieved hard, withdrew, spent days in his office, not speaking. I sat with him, let him process. Eventually, he talked. "She was the only person who ever protected me," Alexander said, "when I was young, before I could protect myself." "Now she's gone," I said, "but what she taught you remains." "What did she teach me?" Alexander asked. "That protection is love," I replied. "That caring for someone means making sure they're safe. You learned that from her, and now you give it to us." 12 years after that first interview, Lily started asking questions about the security, about why her life was different from her friends. "Why do I have a bodyguard?" she asked. "For your safety," Alexander explained. "But none of my friends have bodyguards," Lily pointed out. "They have different circumstances," Alexander said. "What circumstances?" Lily pressed. "Your father is wealthy," I explained. "That makes us a target, so we need protection." "I don't want to be different," Lily said. "I know," Alexander replied, "but sometimes different is necessary." 13 years into our marriage, I tried to leave again, not because I didn't love Alexander, but because I felt suffocated by the security, by the constant watching, by losing myself in his need for control. "I'm leaving," I announced. "Okay," Alexander said, the same calm he showed the first time. "You're not going to fight me?" I asked. "No," Alexander replied. "You're free to leave any time, but my car will follow." "We're back to this?" I said. "We never left this," Alexander corrected. "I love you. That means protecting you, even if you don't want it, even if you leave." "That's not healthy," I argued. "Maybe not," Alexander agreed, "but it's honest." I stayed, again, because leaving Alexander meant accepting his protection anyway, because I understood that his need to protect came from trauma, from growing up unprotected, because I loved him despite everything. 14 years after that first interview, James started showing interest in business. He wanted to learn from Alexander, be like his father. "I'm proud of him," Alexander said, but also worried. "Why?" I asked. "Because teaching him business means teaching him about threats," Alexander explained, "about people who will try to hurt us, about needing protection. He needs to understand reality," I said. "I know," Alexander agreed, "but I hate taking away his innocence." "You're not taking it away," I corrected. "You're preparing him for the world he was born into." 15 years into our marriage, we faced a real threat. Someone trying to kidnap Lily. The security stopped it, but it was close. Too close. "I told you," Alexander said, "that we needed protection." "You were right," I admitted. "I'm sorry." "You don't need to apologize," Alexander replied. "Just understand. This is why I do what I do, why I need to know you're all safe." After the attempted kidnapping, I stopped fighting the security, stopped arguing about the tracking, because Alexander had been right. The threats were real. 16 years after that first interview, Lily started rebelling against the security, against the protection, against being Alexander's daughter. "I want a normal life," she said. "You have a life," Alexander replied, "a protected one." "I don't want protection," Lily argued. "I want freedom." "You can have both," Alexander said. "No, I can't," Lily countered, "not with bodyguards following me everywhere." "You sound like your mother," Alexander observed. "Because I'm right," I said, just like I was right. Lily needs space to be herself. "Within safe parameters," Alexander insisted. "Those parameters feel like a prison," Lily said. "They're protection," Alexander corrected. 17 years into our marriage, Alexander had a health scare, panic attacks, anxiety. Years of fearing for our safety had taken their toll. "You need help," I told him. "I'm fine," Alexander argued. "You're not fine," I said. "You're having panic attacks about things that haven't happened. That's not fine." "I just need to keep you safe," Alexander insisted. "We are safe," I said. "You've made sure of that. But you can't live in constant fear. It's killing you." Alexander started therapy, learned about anxiety, about control as a response to trauma, about how his need to protect was really about his fear of losing us. "I never thought of it that way," Alexander admitted, "as fear instead of protection." "They're the same thing," I said. "You protect us because you're afraid. That's not weakness, it's love." 18 years after that first interview, James graduated high school. He wanted to study business, follow Alexander's path. "I'm proud of you," Alexander told him, "but I also want you to understand something." "What?" James asked. "That business at this level means constant threat," Alexander explained. "People who want what you have, who will try to take it. You need to be prepared for that." "I understand," James said. "Do you?" Alexander pressed. "Because it means living with security, with protection, with the same things your sister hates." "I'm not Lily," James said. "I understand why we need it." 19 years into our marriage, Lily moved out, got her own apartment with security that Alexander insisted on. She accepted it, grudgingly, but with more understanding than before. The attempted kidnapping had changed her perspective. "I hate that she had to learn this way," I told Alexander. "But she needed to understand," Alexander said, "that the threats are real, that protection isn't about control, it's about survival." "She understands now," I agreed, "but she'll still rebel." "That's fine," Alexander said, "as long as she stays safe." 20 years after that first interview, we celebrated. 2 decades since I walked into Alexander's office, 2 decades since he started protecting me. In my speech, I reflected on 20 years, on learning to balance love and control. 25 years ago, I said, a journalist walked into a billionaire's office, asked hard questions, didn't kiss up to me. I was intrigued. When she left, I had someone follow her home, make sure she got home safely. She called me the next day, angry, saying I was inappropriate. She was right, but I couldn't stop needing to know she was safe. He looked at me. For 20 years, Isabella has let me protect her. Even when she hated it, even when she tried to leave, she stayed. She understood. She loved me despite my need for control. That's more than I deserve. After the party, Alexander and I sat alone. 20 years, I said. 2 decades of you protecting me. Best 20 years, Alexander confirmed. Do you still feel the need to protect me? I asked. Every second, Alexander admitted. Does it ever get easier? I asked. No, Alexander said, but I'm learning to manage it, to trust that you're safe even when I can't see you. That's progress, I said. It's something, Alexander agreed. 21 years after that first interview, James joined Alexander's company, started learning the business, understanding the threats that came with wealth. He's ready, Alexander said, watching James in meetings. He understands what we're dealing with. He's young, I pointed out. So was I when I started, Alexander replied, and I learned fast. James will too. 22 years into our marriage, Lily got engaged to a man who worked in nonprofit, someone normal, with no security, no wealth, no understanding of our world. I like him, Alexander said after meeting Lily's fiancé, but I worry. Why? I asked. Because he doesn't understand the threats, Alexander explained, doesn't know how to protect her. That's your job, I reminded him, and it always will be, Alexander agreed, whether she likes it or not. 23 years after that first interview, we became grandparents. Lily had a baby girl, our first grandchild. Alexander was emotional, more than I'd ever seen him. She's perfect, he kept saying, holding the baby. She needs security, Alexander added. Lily, we just talked about this, I said. She's my granddaughter, Alexander argued. She gets protection. Discreet protection, I negotiated. Nothing obvious. Fine, Alexander agreed, but she gets protection. 24 years into our marriage, Alexander stepped back from daily operations, let James run more of the company. It's strange, Alexander admitted, not being in control of everything. That's healthy, I said, letting go. Is it? Alexander asked, because it feels like losing control. You're not losing control, I corrected. You're sharing responsibility. There's a difference. 25 years after that first interview, we threw a big celebration. A quarter century since I walked into Alexander's office. A quarter century since he started protecting me. In my speech, I reflected on 25 years, about growth and compromise and understanding. 25 years ago, I said, a billionaire had someone follow me home. I was angry, thought he was controlling, inappropriate, wrong. But over 25 years, I learned to see past the control, to understand the fear driving it, to recognize that Alexander's protection comes from love. It's not always easy. We fought. I've tried to leave multiple times, but each time Alexander said the same thing. Leave if you want, my car will follow. That statement defines our relationship. The acknowledgement that I'm free to go, but that his care won't stop. His protection will remain. That's Alexander's version of love, and I've learned to accept it, to appreciate it, to understand that it comes from trauma and fear and caring too much. Alexander's speech was about change and growth. 25 years ago, he said, I met a woman who challenged me, who didn't accept my control without question, who made me examine why I needed to protect people so completely. I told her then what I still believe now, that she can leave anytime, but my car will follow. My protection will remain, because I can't stop caring, can't stop needing to know she's safe. He looked at me. Over 25 years, Isabella has taught me something, that protection can't be total, that control pushes people away, that love means respecting freedom even when it scares you. I'm still learning, still struggling, but I'm trying, and that's because of her. After the celebration, we walked in the garden. 25 years, I said, quarter century of you protecting me, and you accepting it, Alexander added, even when you hated it. I never hated it, I corrected. I hated feeling controlled, but the protection that I learned to appreciate. Why? Alexander asked. Because I realized it comes from love, I explained. From you caring too much rather than too little. That's worth accepting. Even when it's excessive, Alexander pressed. Even then, I confirmed. 26 years after that first interview, James got married, had a big wedding. Alexander insisted on extensive security. For threats, he explained. For safety. It's a wedding, I pointed out. It's a gathering of wealthy people, Alexander countered. That's a target. We compromised. Discreet security. No visible weapons. Guards positioned throughout. It still felt like too much, but I understood why Alexander needed it. 27 years into our marriage, Lily had another baby, a boy. Alexander was obsessed. 2 grandchildren, he kept saying, like it was a miracle. You're a good grandfather, I told him. I'm trying, Alexander said. Trying to be protective without being controlling. It's harder than I thought. You're doing well, I assured him. You let them have freedom, within limits. Those limits still feel restrictive, Alexander admitted, but I'm learning. 28 years after that first interview, we took a long trip, 6 months traveling, just us. This is nice, Alexander said in Italy, being away from everything, from the company, from the threats. Do you still see threats everywhere? I asked. Yes, Alexander admitted, but I'm better at managing the fear, at not letting it control me. That's growth, I said. It's survival, Alexander corrected, because without growth, you would have left me years ago. 29 years into our marriage, we faced another real threat, someone targeting Alexander's company, going after his family to pressure him. The security stopped it, but it reminded us both why Alexander's paranoia wasn't entirely unfounded. I hate that you were right, I told him, about needing protection. I hate it too, Alexander said. I'd rather be paranoid and wrong than right about threats. 30 years after that first interview, We threw a massive party. 3 decades since I walked into his office. 3 decades since he had someone follow me home. In my speech, I reflected on 30 years, on everything we'd been through. 30 years ago, I said, I interviewed a cold billionaire who had someone follow me home. I called him the next day, angry, demanding to know why. He said it was for my protection. I said I didn't need protecting. Over 30 years, I've learned something, that sometimes we don't know what we need, that protection can be love. That control can come from fear rather than malice. Alexander has protected me for 30 years, sometimes excessively, sometimes in ways I hated, but always from a place of caring too much. And I've learned to accept that, to work with it, to understand that it's his way of loving. Alexander's speech was shorter, simpler. 30 years ago, he said, I told a woman that if she laughed, my car would follow. She thought I was controlling, possessive, wrong. She wasn't entirely wrong, but she also didn't understand something then that took me years to understand myself, that my need to protect comes from fear, from growing up unprotected, from knowing what happens when people aren't safe. He paused. Isabella has spent 30 years teaching me balance, teaching me that protection can't mean total control, that love means respecting freedom. I'm still learning, still struggling, but I'm better than I was, and that's because of her. After the party, we sat on the terrace. 30 years, I said, 3 decades of you trying to protect me, and you fighting me on it, Alexander added. Not as much anymore, I said. Why not? Alexander asked. Because I understand now, I explained, that your control comes from love, from fear, from trauma, and because the threats were real. You were right about that. I wish I wasn't, Alexander admitted. 31 years after that first interview, Alexander was diagnosed with anxiety disorder. Officially, years of constant vigilance had taken their toll. You need medication, the doctor said, and therapy. I don't want medication, Alexander argued. It might help, I said, with the constant fear, the panic. I need to be alert, Alexander insisted, to protect everyone. You can't protect us if you're having panic attacks, I pointed out. Alexander started treatment, medication, regular therapy, learning to manage the anxiety that drove his need for control. It's strange, he told me one day, not living in constant fear, but also, I feel guilty, like I'm not doing enough to protect everyone. You're doing enough, I promised. We're all safe. The medication just helps you see that. 32 years into our marriage, Lily asked us for money to start a foundation, helping underprivileged kids. Of course, Alexander said immediately, but I want security oversight. Why? Lily asked. Because you'll be working with vulnerable populations, Alexander explained. That can attract dangerous people. I need to know you're protected. You can't control everything, Lily said. I'm not trying to control, Alexander replied. I'm trying to protect. There's a difference. They compromised. Security consultation, safety protocols, but Lily ran her foundation her way. 33 years after that first interview, James had a baby, our 3rd grandchild. Alexander was emotional, but also already planning security. They need protection, he said, all 3 of them. They have protection, I reminded him. You've made sure of that. It's not enough, Alexander worried. It's never enough, because something could always happen. That's anxiety talking, I said, not reality. How do you know? Alexander asked. Because we've been safe for 33 years, I pointed out. Because your protection works. You need to trust that. 34 years into our marriage, we moved to a smaller house, something manageable without staff. This is nice, I said, just us. More vulnerable, Alexander countered, without full security. We have security, I reminded him. Cameras, alarms, guards, just fewer of them. That worries me, Alexander admitted. I know, I said, but we're okay. We're always okay, because you protect us. 35 years after that first interview, Alexander had a heart attack. Minor, but terrifying. I thought I was losing you, I admitted in the hospital. You're not losing me, Alexander promised. Good, I said, because after 35 years, I'm not ready to let you go. Even with all the control issues? Alexander asked. Even then, I confirmed, because I understand them now. Understand you. Alexander recovered, but it was a wake-up call. About stress, about anxiety, about decades of living in fear taking their toll. I need to change, Alexander said. How? I asked. I need to let go more, Alexander explained. Trust that everyone is safe, that I've done enough protecting. Can you do that? I asked. I don't know, Alexander admitted, but I'm going to try. 36 years into our marriage, Alexander stepped down as CEO. Let James take over completely. It's time, Alexander said. For what? I asked. To stop trying to control everything, Alexander explained. To trust that I've built enough protection, that everyone will be okay without me managing every detail. That's a big step, I said. It's necessary, Alexander replied, because I'm tired of the constant fear, the vigilance, the need to control everything. 37 years after that first interview, we renewed our vows again, just us. No party, no guests. In my vows, I talked about 37 years, about learning to live with Alexander's need to protect, about understanding that it comes from love. In his vows, Alexander repeated his promise. You can leave, he said, anytime, for any reason, but my car will follow, not because I want to control you, but because after 37 years, I still can't stop caring, still can't stop needing to know you're safe. That's who I am, and you've accepted that. Thank you for accepting me. 38 years into our marriage, Lily's foundation became hugely successful, helping thousands of kids. Alexander was proud, but also worried about Lily's safety working with difficult populations. You need to let her live her life, I told him. I know, Alexander said, but it's hard, watching her do dangerous work. It's not dangerous, I corrected. It's important. She's helping people, like you help people by protecting them. Maybe, Alexander admitted, but I still worry. That's being a parent, I said. It doesn't stop after 38 years. 39 years after that first interview, Alexander was diagnosed with early Parkinson's. Manageable, but progressive. I'm losing control, Alexander said, of my body, of everything. You're not losing anything, I argued. You're just facing something new. How do I protect everyone if I can't even control my own hands? Alexander asked. You've already protected us, I said, for 39 years. That doesn't stop because you have Parkinson's. 40 years after that first interview, we threw our biggest party yet. 4 decades since I walked into Alexander's office. 4 decades since he started protecting me. In my speech, I reflected on 40 years, on everything we'd survived. 40 years ago, I said, I tried to walk away from a billionaire who scared me. He said, leave if you want, my car will follow. I thought he was controlling, possessive, dangerous. Over 40 years, I learned the truth, that Alexander's need to protect comes from trauma, from fear, from loving too completely. It's not always healthy. We fought. I've resented it. I've tried to leave multiple times, but each time I stayed, because I understood, because beneath the control was care, because his protection, however excessive, came from love. Alexander's speech was emotional. 40 years ago, he said, I met a woman who challenged everything about me, who made me examine why I needed control, why I couldn't let people exist without protection. She tried to leave me. I said she could, but that my car would follow, that my protection would remain. That statement has defined 40 years. Because it's true. Isabella can leave any time, but I'll still protect her, still make sure she's safe, still care whether she's okay. That's not control, that's love. Imperfect, excessive, but real. After the party, we sat together, quiet, reflective. 40 years, I said. 4 decades of you protecting me. Best 40 years, Alexander confirmed. Would you change anything? I asked. I'd change my need for control, Alexander said, the anxiety driving it, the fear, but I wouldn't change protecting you. That I'd do again, every time. Good, I said, because I wouldn't change accepting it, accepting you, all of you. 41 years after that first interview, Alexander's Parkinson's progressed. Movement became harder. He needed help with basic tasks. I hate this, Alexander admitted, needing help instead of giving it. You've helped us for 40 years, I said. Now it's our turn. That's not how this works, Alexander argued. I'm supposed to protect you. You are protecting us, I said, by letting us care for you, by showing our kids that strength means accepting help. 42 years into our marriage, James took the company in a new direction, more ethical, more transparent. Alexander was proud, but also nervous. You're making us vulnerable, Alexander told James. By being transparent, we're making ourselves trustworthy, James corrected. That's different protection than you used, but it works. I'm learning from you, Alexander admitted, that control isn't the only way to protect people. 43 years after that first interview, we faced a major lawsuit. Someone claiming Alexander's protection tactics were illegal, harassment, stalking. We fought it, won eventually, but it was stressful. Maybe they were right, Alexander said after. Maybe I was too controlling. You protected us, I reminded him. That's what mattered. But at what cost? Alexander asked. You lost freedom, privacy, peace. And gained safety, I said. Security, life. That's worth something. 44 years into our marriage, Lily wrote a book about growing up with excessive security, with a father who couldn't stop protecting. Alexander was hurt. She's criticizing me, he said. She's being honest, I corrected, about her experience. That's fair. It makes me look controlling, Alexander argued. Because you were controlling, I said. But the book also shows why, shows the love underneath, shows that you were doing your best. 45 years after that first interview, we moved into senior living, a secure facility with medical support. This feels like defeat, Alexander said. It's being smart, I corrected, accepting help when we need it. I was supposed to protect you until the end, Alexander said. You are protecting me, I replied, by making sure we're both cared for. 46 years into our marriage, Alexander's health declined significantly. The Parkinson's was winning. He was mostly in a wheelchair, needing constant care. I can't protect you anymore, Alexander said one day. Yes, you can, I argued. How? Alexander asked. I can barely move. You protect me by being here, I explained, by loving me, by showing me every day that care matters more than control. That's not protection, Alexander said. That's just existing. It's everything, I corrected. 47 years after that first interview, we celebrated quietly, just us and close family. In my speech, I talked about 47 years, about control and protection, and learning to balance both. 47 years ago, I said, I tried to walk away from a man who scared me with his need to control. He said, leave if you want, my car will follow. That statement has defined 47 years, the acknowledgement that I was free, but that his care wouldn't stop. Over time, I learned that Alexander's control came from fear, from trauma, from caring too much in a world that hurt him. It wasn't always healthy. We struggled, fought, grew, but we stayed, and that's what matters. Alexander couldn't give a speech. The Parkinson's had affected his speech too much, but he wrote something, had James read it. 47 years ago, it said, I met someone who challenged my need for control, who made me examine why I protected people so completely. I told her then that if she left, my car would follow. I still believe that, even now, even unable to move or speak well, my care hasn't stopped. My need to know she's safe remains. That's love. Imperfect and excessive, but mine. 48 years into our marriage, Alexander was mostly bedridden. The Parkinson's had progressed too far. I was with him constantly, holding his hand, reading to him, reminding him he wasn't alone. "Isabella," Alexander said one afternoon, his voice barely working. "I'm here," I replied. "I kept my promise, didn't I?" he asked. "You did," I confirmed. "Protected me for 48 years. "Good," Alexander said. That was all that mattered. One night, Alexander had something to tell me. "If something happens to me," he said slowly, "what happens to you?" I asked. "The protection continues," Alexander explained. "I've set everything up. Security, money, everything you need. You'll be protected even after I'm gone." "You can't control things from beyond the grave," I said. "Watch me," Alexander replied, with a weak smile. Alexander passed away 2 mornings later, peacefully, with me holding his hand. At his funeral, our children spoke. James went first. "My father was controlling," he said. "Everyone knew that. He needed to know where we were, who we were with, what we were doing. But as I got older, I understood why. He grew up unprotected, in danger, and he swore he'd never let that happen to his family. Was he excessive? Yes. Did he cross lines? Probably. But did he love us? Absolutely. Everything he did came from fear of losing us." Lily spoke next. "Growing up with my father was hard," she said. "I felt suffocated, watched, controlled. I resented him for years, but after the attempted kidnapping when I was 15, I understood. The threats were real. The danger was real. My father wasn't paranoid, he was realistic, and his protection, however excessive, kept us alive. After the funeral, I went home, to an empty house for the first time in 48 years. But I realized something. Alexander's protection hadn't ended. There were still security measures, still guards watching, still everything he'd set up to keep me safe. He had meant it about the protection continuing. 1 year after Alexander died, I wrote a memoir about our 48 years together, about control and protection and learning to accept both. The book was called My Car Will Follow, after Alexander's words that day I tried to leave. In the book, I was honest about the fights, about feeling suffocated, about resenting his control, but also about understanding, about recognizing that his need to protect came from love, about accepting that imperfect love is still love. 2 years after losing Alexander, the memoir became a bestseller. People connected with our story, with the complexity, with the reality that love isn't always clean or simple. Some people criticized Alexander, called him controlling, abusive. Others understood, saw the trauma underneath, saw the love driving the control. Both perspectives were valid. 3 years after Alexander's death, I gave a talk at a conference about relationships, about what I learned in 48 years. "Love isn't always healthy," I said, "but it can still be real." Alexander controlled me, watched me, protected me excessively. By normal standards, our relationship was problematic, but I also understood something, that his control came from fear, from trauma, from loving too much in a world that hurt him, and I chose to stay, chose to work with it, chose to help him grow while accepting who he was. That was my choice, and I don't regret it. 4 years after losing him, Lily expanded her foundation, named it after Alexander, the Alexander Chen Foundation for At-Risk Youth. He would have liked that, I told Lily, using his name to help people. He spent his whole life protecting people, Lily said. This seems right, protecting the most vulnerable. 5 years after Alexander died, I was diagnosed with dementia, early stages. The family rallied, made sure I was protected, just like Alexander would have wanted. "He'd be happy," James said, "knowing we're taking care of you." He would, I agreed. 6 years after his death, I was mostly in memory care, living in the past more than present, but one memory stayed clear. That day I tried to leave. Alexander saying, "Leave if you want, my car will follow." That memory never faded. "Where's Alexander?" I would ask sometimes. "He's not here anymore," Lily would say gently, "but he loved you very much, protected you for 48 years. "I remember," I'd say. "I remember him following me, making sure I was safe." "That's right," Lily would confirm. That's your story. 7 years after Alexander died, I passed away, peacefully, surrounded by family. At my funeral, James spoke again. My mother spent 48 years with a man who couldn't stop protecting her, he said. She could have left, almost did several times, but she stayed because she understood something most people don't, that love comes in different forms, that protection can be love, that accepting someone's imperfections is sometimes the greatest gift you can give. They buried me next to Alexander, two people who spent 48 years navigating control and freedom, protection and independence, love and fear. The headstone read simple words, Alexander and Isabella Chen. His car followed, her love stayed. Years later, people still told our story, about the journalist who tried to leave a billionaire, about him saying his car would follow, about 48 years built on that statement. The story became a reminder that love is complicated, that protection can be excessive but still come from care, that accepting someone's flaws is sometimes necessary. Our grandchildren grew up knowing the story, told it to their children, about great-grandpa Alexander who protected everyone excessively, about great-grandma Isabella who learned to accept it. Each generation interpreted it differently. Some saw unhealthy control, others saw imperfect love. Both were true. The security company Alexander built became a model for ethical protection, for balancing safety with freedom, for understanding that control can come from trauma. His employees were trained differently, to protect without suffocating, to care without controlling, to understand the difference. Decades after we both passed, therapists used our story as an example of complex relationships, of how trauma affects behavior, of how love can exist even in imperfect dynamics. The memoir I wrote was still read by people trying to understand complicated relationships, trying to figure out when protection becomes control. The answer was different for everyone. On the 50th anniversary of my death, the family gathered. At our graves, shared stories, remembered. One of our great-grandchildren spoke. She was a therapist. 50 years ago, my great-grandmother died, she said, 7 years after her husband. They had spent 48 years together, building a life from complicated dynamics. Their relationship wasn't perfect. He was controlling. She felt suffocated. They fought. She tried to leave multiple times, but they stayed together because beneath the control was care, beneath the suffocation was protection, beneath the imperfection was love. That's what I teach my clients, that relationships are rarely simple, that love comes in many forms, that accepting imperfection is sometimes necessary. The family stood in silence, honoring two people who showed that love is complicated. Later, they shared more stories about Alexander's excessive protection, about my patience, about 48 years of navigating both. This is the legacy, someone said. Not that their relationship was perfect, but that it was real, that they worked through complexity, that they chose each other despite everything. In the end, that's what mattered. Not whether Alexander was too controlling, not whether I should have left, but that we built 48 years together, raised a family, created a legacy, showed that imperfect love is still love. She walked away from him until he said, "Leave if you want, my car will follow." That statement defined 48 years, defined a relationship, defined two people who loved each other imperfectly but completely. That's our story. That's our legacy. That's what remains. The wisdom from our story spread beyond our family. Relationship counselors referenced us as a case study of how trauma affects relationships, of how control can stem from fear rather than malice, of how accepting imperfection is sometimes love. They would teach about boundaries, about the line between protection and control, using Alexander and me as examples of both sides. Sometimes he crossed lines, counselors would say. used protection as an excuse for control. But other times, his protection was genuine, necessary, real. The challenge is knowing the difference. Students studying psychology analyzed our relationship, wrote papers about attachment styles, about how childhood trauma manifests in adult relationships, about control as a trauma response. Alexander's need to protect came from being unprotected as a child, professors would explain, from growing up in danger, from learning that safety requires constant vigilance. Isabella's acceptance came from understanding that, from seeing past the control to the fear underneath. The security industry changed partly because of Alexander's influence. Companies trained employees differently, to protect without controlling, to respect autonomy while ensuring safety, to understand that true protection includes emotional well-being, not just physical safety. Our grandchildren all found their own ways with the legacy. James's children became advocates for mental health, understanding that behavior comes from trauma, that people need healing, not just judgment. Lily's children became social workers, protecting vulnerable people while respecting their autonomy, finding the balance Alexander struggled with. Each generation learned from our mistakes, from our successes, from 48 years of navigating complex dynamics. The memoir I wrote became required reading in some therapy programs to teach about complex relationships, about how love isn't always simple, about recognizing unhealthy patterns while understanding their origins. Students would debate whether I should have left, whether Alexander's behavior was acceptable, whether love justifies staying in difficult dynamics. The answers varied, because the situation was complex. No easy answers, just two people doing their best with their traumas and fears. In domestic violence courses, instructors used our story carefully to show the difference between control from fear and control from malice, between protection that respects autonomy and control that destroys it. Alexander controlled Isabella, they would say, but he also respected her right to leave, never physically prevented her, never threatened her for wanting space. That distinction matters. Some students disagreed, argued that emotional control is as harmful as physical, that Alexander's behavior was unacceptable regardless of origin. They weren't wrong. Others saw the nuance, saw two people working through trauma together, saw imperfect love that was still real. Both perspectives had validity. On the 100th anniversary of that first interview, the family held a massive gathering, hundreds of descendants, all connected to Alexander and me. At the event, one of our great-great-grandchildren spoke, a woman who had studied our story extensively. 100 years ago, she said, my great-great-grandmother walked into a billionaire's office for an interview. He was cold, dismissive, controlling. She wrote an honest article, he appreciated it, asked to dinner, started protecting her whether she wanted it or not. She tried to leave.
He said, "Leave if you want, my car will follow." That statement has echoed through a century, teaching generations about complexity, about trauma, about imperfect love. Their relationship wasn't perfect. He was controlling, she felt suffocated, but they also understood each other, worked through issues, built 48 years together. She paused. What I've learned from their story is that relationships are rarely simple, that people are complicated, that love can exist even in imperfect dynamics, that understanding someone's trauma doesn't excuse their behavior, but it can explain it. And sometimes explanation helps us navigate complexity. The crowd reflected on a century of impact from one complicated relationship. Later, people shared their own stories, how Alexander and Isabella's example influenced them. One woman talked about staying with a partner through mental health struggles. Their story showed me that imperfection doesn't mean leaving, she said. that working through issues is sometimes love. A man discussed leaving a controlling relationship. Their story showed me the difference between trauma-based control and malicious control, he explained. My partner wouldn't work on it, wouldn't acknowledge the harm. That's when I knew to leave. Alexander worked on it. A therapist talked about using our story with clients to teach about boundaries and trauma and complexity, to show that relationships exist on a spectrum. The stories continued, each person taking something different, each learning their own lessons. The security company Alexander founded continued to evolve, now focused on ethical protection, on balancing safety with freedom, on understanding that the best security respects autonomy. Employees were trained in trauma-informed care, in understanding how fear drives behavior, in protecting without controlling. The company motto became words I had once told Alexander: protection without respect isn't protection, it's control. In schools, teachers used our story carefully to discuss healthy relationships, to teach about red flags and green flags, to help students understand complexity. Alexander showed red flags, teachers would say, the tracking, the following, the excessive control. But he also showed green flags, respecting Isabella's right to leave, working on his behavior, accepting feedback. The question students had to answer: which matters more? The discussion was always intense, always complicated, always valuable. Universities offered courses on our relationship, examining it from multiple angles: psychology, sociology, women's studies, business ethics. Each discipline found different lessons. Each perspective added nuance. Literature professors compared our story to classics, to Beauty and the Beast, to Pride and Prejudice, to any story where love requires accepting imperfection. But they noted the difference. This was real. These were real people with real struggles. That made it more complicated, more instructive. Film students made documentaries, some sympathetic to Alexander, others critical, all trying to understand how two people built 48 years from such complicated beginnings. On the 110th anniversary of that first interview, the city where we lived put up a memorial at the building where Alexander's office had been. The plaque read, "Here, Isabella Hayes interviewed Alexander Chen. Here, he started protecting her. Here, a complicated love story began, teaching generations about trauma, control, and imperfect love." People would visit, take photos, discuss our story. Some saw romance, others saw red flags. Both were valid. Our great-great-great-grandchildren grew up knowing the story about ancestors who built something complicated but real, who showed that love isn't always simple, who proved that understanding trauma matters. They would visit our graves, tell us about their lives, about how they were using our lessons. One descendant became a trauma therapist, helping people understand how fear drives behavior. Another started a foundation for children in foster care, like Alexander had been.
A third wrote books about complex relationships, each finding their way to honor what we built. The legacy continued, not because our relationship was perfect, but because it was real, because it taught something important, because 48 years of navigating complexity matter. In the end, our story became bigger than us, became a reminder that people are complicated, that trauma affects behavior, that love can exist even in imperfect dynamics, that understanding doesn't mean excusing, that accepting imperfection is sometimes necessary, that boundaries matter, that working on yourself matters more. She walked away from him until he said, "Leave if you want, my car will follow." That statement has taught generations about control and protection, about fear and love, about trauma and healing, about staying and leaving, about complexity. That's Alexander and Isabella Chen,
48 years of imperfect love, a complicated legacy, a story that continues teaching long after we're both gone. Because the lessons remain. Love is complicated. Trauma affects behavior. Understanding matters. Boundaries matter more. And sometimes imperfect love is still love. That truth is eternal, proven by us, complicated by us, taught by us. That's everything we left behind. That's the full story. That's our complete legacy. From that first interview to centuries of impact, from one statement to generations of learning, from two imperfect people to a family that understands complexity. The lessons we taught continue. That control can come from fear. That protection can be excessive but still loving. That trauma explains behavior without excusing it. That accepting imperfection is sometimes necessary. That boundaries always matter. Every person who hears our story takes something different. Some learn about red flags to avoid. Others learn about understanding trauma. Still others learn about navigating complexity. All of these lessons are true. All of them matter. All of them came from 48 years of two people trying their best with their traumas and fears. She walked away from him until he said, "Leave if you want, my car will follow." That statement echoed through 48 years, through raising children who understood both sides, through building a family that valued understanding over judgment. And now, long after we're both gone, it continues to echo, teaching people, challenging them, showing them that love is rarely simple. That's the full story. That's the complete legacy. That's Alexander and Isabella Chen. One complicated statement, 48 years of imperfect love, a lifetime of impact, forever. Did you like my story? Which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you liked the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.